Welcome back, everybody. Derrick Soo, your East Oakland advocate. Well, this is Burning Man week. Have you been following Burning Man? I have friends that went to Burning Man. In fact, um, a homeless person that is part of the activist uh, group that meets along with me on our hog meetings. She's attending Black Rock, Burning Man. And I bring up Burning Man in the sense that we're going to talk about alternative housing today. And a lot of the burners, the original burners of Burning Man, the creators of Burning Man, were right here in the Bay Area. In fact, I was part of the group that attended the very first Burning Man on the beach in San Francisco. And it was a celebration of all of the creative um, season that they had, and they were celebrating, and the artists group was incredible because uh, if if you followed the artist group, the artist colonies of Oakland, they were at the forefront of alternative housing, and they they were the originators here in Oakland of alternative housing and live workspaces. And I was introduced to them to in a very young age because I went to elementary school with Paco Prieto, and his parents were in charge of art at Mills College. And I bring them up because they taught a lot of different things, and the family was all into art and creating. In fact, uh, one of Paco's brothers, Steb, the oldest brother, was a very famous glass blower, blowing artist right here in West Oakland, and his glasses sold in specialty stores all around the country, and they were very expensive. And but it was also a very expensive endeavor having the glass blowing in being in the glass blowing industry, and they were all and hand created, hand air blown uh, glasses, drinking glasses, and so there was a lot of different styles, and in the stores they sold for upwards of $50 per glass. They were absolutely incredible. They were beautiful, and Steb did very well. And unfortunately, the cost of living here in Oakland, you know, and then the crime, uh, kind of forced Steb to move out of West Oakland, and he set up business and now is retired in Missouri. So it was sad to see a very famous artist of Oakland leave Oakland and move elsewhere. But he wasn't the only one. I have friends that are still living alternative housing situations. One of the original parties that I went to was in East Oakland, out by the old Westinghouse brick icon in East Oakland. And there was a building. It was literally called the Spaghetti Factory because back in the 20s and 30s, that's what they produced, spaghetti. And so the warehouse was always referred to as the Spaghetti Factory, but it was rolled over into a live work type space. And a friend, actually two friends. One, she was a jewelry artist, and she sold a lot of her jewelry at Macy's and Nordstrom's, and that was famous Melissa. Her jewelry was very unique in the sense that they were all discarded, high tech, gold plated, and gold chips and pins and all sorts of stuff. And she created jewelry out of that. And the reason why I say that is because she didn't commute at all. She lived in the workspace where she created all her jewelry. Just like Steb. Steb had a family in West Oakland in that building. And it was Steb, his wife, and two children that lived upstairs. So their commute was very, very short. And that's what we're missing today. And people are having to drive so far and spend so much money. And gas, again, is approaching $5 a gallon, and probably will hit pretty close to 6 by the time we get to the holidays, because here in California, we have the gas formulation changeover that's getting ready to start. And we're going from the summer formulation to the winter formulation. And so prices of summer gas is going to rise as they're creating the new winter blend. And then once the winter blend comes online, then the price changes. I mean, it drastically drops once that changeover hits here in California. But anyway, that the alternative housing is common through the artist colony, and I know a lot of the artists in the artist colony, but unfortunately, again, a lot of them left. You know, the Vigneris have left. They sold beautiful copper jewelry at Nordstrom's, and so alternative housing is not new, but you can create the live workspace that works for you and your situation. And that's something that probably should be looked at is if you're setting up a business, kind of like myself. I'm a part of a business group right now. We own the building and the property, and we're trying to acquire 2 more pieces of property, and that's going to be the foundation. By owning the property, we control all of the costs and expenses of a building and the property. Whereas if you lease that or long-term renting, you do not have that control. And so we control costs top to bottom. And by acquiring and owning the building and the property, we also can deduct that as a business expense. So there are a lot of benefits to this. And at the same time, since we own everything, we don't have a landlord that says you can't do that. You can't have a person living in there. Well, yes, we can. And we create that, and we have permits for it. And so insurance companies are look at a live workspace as a higher fire risk because somebody's living there, and home fires are a risk, but then so are business fires. In our case, the flames are very limited, and if flames do pop out, it's going to be most likely an electrical fire, and that's it. It won't be a structural fire. It'll be an electrical fire, and that would be it. And so our insurance needs are very different, and in fact, right now that's the difficulty, and the reason why I'm sitting out, not looking for housing at this moment, because when I first started out looking for housing, I started looking at rentals and leases all around Oakland, and then because I was homeless and had no rental history, very few landlords are willing to take a chance on me, even though I have plenty of money. It doesn't matter. They say, you have no history. And so there were a few of them that would take my application, and in order for me to move forward, it would be 3 times the normal deposit. 3 times the normal deposit. That's why there's legislation in our state capital right now to prevent these greedy ass landlords from doing exactly that, raising a deposit to unreasonable heights, and that's what we're seeing across the board, and we're pushing for that. I'm hoping that it passes very quickly, and uh, those greedy landlords, and they're they go top to bottom. Slumlords do that as well as the luxury uh, property managers. So, um, finding alternative housing that's reasonable is very difficult, and that's why we own the property to control the costs. And if we need personnel, we can also have them live here temporarily overnight because we have everything that's needed for bathrooms, for kitchens, and we do have right now a spare area for people to stay overnight if need be. But that's going to change very quickly once all of our permits are in place. But alternative housing is nothing new, and it can be a lot of different things. People have been talking about ADUs, but then there's so we have too much money. It would cost me nearly $12,000 to get into a 600 square foot apartment condo, and the rent was $2,400 a month. It was incredible, and I don't see how anybody can afford to do that. In fact, there were so many empty units in most of the places that I went. Um, I can understand why they're empty because they're unreasonable demands for money. It just showed their greed on these property managers. And so renting and leasing was out for me. I can't afford to put $12,000 down to start paying $2,400 a month for 600 square feet. That doesn't make sense. And we're not talking about a building with an incredible view or anything. And if I wanted a view, I'm looking at another $300 to $500 just for the view. So I can't do that. And then right now, our housing situation here in Oakland is at an all-time low in terms of inventory, but prices are coming down, um, and that's because of the interest rate being hiked by the feds. Currently, it's at 7.5%, which, for me, I'm used to that. I remembered those days at 7%, and I was happy for 7% because if you remember, I just got out of a home mortgage at 15%. I filed for bankruptcy to get out of that, and so 15% is not fun. And then finding interest rate at 7.5%, yeah, that's not too bad, like I said. But then right now they're when you purchase a home, in order to close, you also have to have insurance. And right now, if you're a new home buyer, that's not possible. If you're a home owner already and you're transitioning out of your home, you can transfer possibly. But in terms of new policies, State Farm, Allstate, uh, Geico, Safeco, and a couple others have already said they are not underwriting any new policies. So that's putting a lot of strain on the new home buyer or the first time home buyer. You can't become a first time home buyer if you can't close on the closing, on the escrow. And so that creates a real situation here. Um, I don't know what the answer is. Because I know that in terms of my business and my business partners right now, insurance isn't a big deal because there's nothing to burn that's valuable to us. And so likelihood of fire anyway is pretty much zero. It's a steel building with concrete. Um, but alternative housing has been around a long time, and for myself, I don't entertain folks and bring people over, have parties. Hey, come hang out with me. No, I don't do any of that. I'm very selective about who I surround myself with and who surrounds me. And I'm tough on that. And I guess what I'm saying is I can comfortably wait out this really horrendous market right now and wait for something that really fits me, because number one, a high rise building is not in my future. I guarantee you that. I don't like them. I've stayed in the most expensive one that I stayed in was right here in Oakland, the Essex, #1 Lakeside. I was there for 2 years when the building first opened. It was um, under Jerry Brown's plan. That was one of the first buildings put up, created, and opened while Jerry Brown was still in the Oakland mayor's office. Since we were selling our place and I had inherited my grandparents' home, so we had to do a lot of work on that home in the Grand Lake, and we needed a place to stay while I carried out a majority of that remodeling, because the home was finished in 1912, and um, building codes were very different back then, and so it took me nearly 2 years to tear the house apart, put more modern fixtures, windows, doors, everything into the house, bring everything up to electrical code, plumbing codes, insulation codes, gas codes. So there were a lot of things. It took me 2 years, along with some of my crew from my construction business, and we worked diligently, on that for 2 years, and we were at a point where we could actually move in because our lease was ending at the Essex, and the Essex was now asking for a renewal, or if we were interested in purchasing, and neither of those were in the cards for me. And we didn't have the kitchen finished yet, but we could make do, kind of like what I did when I first got burned out around the corner from my homeless shelter. I had to put together a cooking center, a way to have meals for the first few nights. Fortunately, I had money where I can use my DoorDash and feed myself and my dog until I got things kind of in place, and was able to create a kitchen. Now I've got an incredible kitchen with my own cook center, lots of space, refrigerator. I have a large sink, which does just fine. I don't need a dishwasher. I don't need all the trappings of simpler life or more expensive life in that case. Uh, like I said, I just don't entertain, so I don't need fancy furniture. I don't need a fancy home or fancy walls and things. In fact, that right there is just fine for me. That kitchen, it works. The bathroom has everything I need in there, which is mostly the shower and the sink, and that's it. Uh, I have a way to wash my dog easily. I have a place for me to sleep, lay my head, and also watch TV quietly. So uh, this situation fits all of my needs right now, and I just don't need the trappings of a typical single family home. And then with a single family home, there's a lot of maintenance. mowing the lawns, taking care of the gardens, weeding. Then there's the maintenance inside the home, and so that's I did it. And when I had my Grand Lake home, my wife and I, we had money, but also we had to buy back our freedom, our time, because we were so busy with our jobs, our businesses. And so I was paying well over $500 a month for uh, an outside cleaning service, two ladies to come in twice a month for a top to bottom cleaning of our home. And we did that for 3 years. And it gets expensive. And we were very particular about how we wanted our home clean. And so we didn't want chemicals and everything. We provided the tools and equipment mostly. So it was mostly just the ladies bringing their strengths to the house and doing what we were assigning them. But it's not cheap. And for those of you that are homeowners uh, that don't have that luxury, you know how much work it is cleaning bathrooms, tubs, toilets, sinks, floors. Then you have the laundry of the house. That's why I'm single. It's real easy for me. I know my needs, and I don't have to worry about somebody else's stuff, and that works out really well for me. And at my age, the only thing that I have to worry about is making sure if I drop dead in the middle of the night, somebody finds my dead corpse in a reasonable amount of time, and the dog's not chewing on me. Because we hear about people dying and nobody checking up on them. They have pets, and then unfortunately, their pets end up eating them because the pets are hungry, and time goes by. So I'm not in that situation, fortunately. But alternative housing is something that, if you have a business, you should look at. Uh, One of the other things that I was thinking of doing, because our waterway laws are very specific, and uh, I thought about having a newer boat and doing a liveaboard. In every marina in the United States, you are granted an automatic 14-day, 13 nights of staying aboard your vessel in the harbor. Whether they like it or not, they cannot, repeat, they cannot violate and ask you to not be on that boat if you have not been there for more than 14 days or 13 nights. And you can buy passes around the bay, out on Angel Island. You can buy an annual pass, and you can park your boat out there. And again, the same laws and rules apply. 14 days, 13 nights, and before you have to move. So that if you took it to the maximum right there, you're at 26 nights that you've already covered in the bay. And so uh, 14, 13 nights at your marina, you can go in and out, privileges. Uh, 13 nights, Angel Island, anchor off as part of your annual pass. And then you can anchor out in the South Bay in the explosion zone, or outside of the explosion zone where the big tankers anchor off. And that's a slower water there. And so it's comfortable to stay overnight on an anchorage. So I fished out there many days with heavy fog, and then into the early evening. And the water stays pretty calm there, unless it's really windy and really bad weather. You shouldn't need to seek shelter. And if you do need to seek shelter, that's where Angel Island comes in, or you stay in your marina berth. But you still need to spend those other days, other nights, out on the bay. That's what my plan, and that was very doable because there are pump outs that are in Jack London Square, and then most marinas have a pump out for their berth holders, and so I would be able to use the bathroom and showers and create my own water on my own boat because it's more modern and it's not those wrecks like what we see in Sausalito on those illegal anchor outs, and now we have the illegal anchor outs uh, causing some problems in the Oakland estuary, and so I wouldn't be one of those problems, but you see boats that are very decrepit and they become a problem. They are alternative housing, but safe, not really. And the problem with a lot of those, if they take on water and sink, those illegal anchor outs, they just swim ashore and walk away. They don't care about it because what are you going to do to them? They don't have any money. Everything that they had just went to the bottom of the bay in the boat. So good luck. Thanks for joining me today. We'll be right back.